All right, so I'm at a stopping point. It's a little hard to see now, but I started to build each of these, and I started to figure out that I was creating a module with the modules. So I was able to, while some of them were drying, over to the side, start to compile another module made up of 4 of these pieces, right? So that's what you may have seen me start to do over here on the side. And that wasn't a planned thing, right? That was just something that, as I was starting to put these together, it was a geometry that I liked. And it ended up being, again, just 4 of these pieces together, something that I liked about that. And stacking them on top of one another, I was able to get this verticality that I wanted. I'm not going to turn it right now so you can see. I'll show you later, just because the glue is still wet. But just wanted to, again, explain that that was one of those things that just spontaneously came about. As I was coming, I realized, coming vertically with it, realized, hey, I can just do this pattern and rotate it each time I was going up, and it was something that kind of worked out. So I'm going to wait for this to dry, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to revisit how I can start to look at this tree canopy up at the top. So I'm going to move this over somewhere out of the way, let it dry up before we start building on it some more. Okay, so going back to this piece, that was my initial low relief sculpture. This was the inspiration for the whole thing. So I'm going to look back at this for a second and start to think about how I can now create a similar type of light and shadow and geometry that I enjoyed about this. And part of it, I think, is how it moves, and that I can kind of curve it here, and then it starts to give me a little bit more feeling of a tree canopy, like abstractly. There's something that I like about that, and also is then manipulating the geometry as I'm moving it. So I'm going to try to think about a way that I can do that with my modules. Okay, I'm back. I thought about this a little bit and just started thinking that the reason why I liked this moving was that in some way that they were attached to one another. So I actually started to glue some of these modules to a piece of paper. And I left a little bit of space in between them, and they were able to move in a way that I liked. That was kind of reminiscent of this piece here, without necessarily being the same thing. And then what I started to do on this side, instead of just keeping it a flat piece of paper, I started to cut out those openings so we get an interesting light and shadow on that. And I think I'm going to try to create the tree canopy using this piece of paper almost as the structure. And then afterwards, I'm going to cut some openings in it, trying to think about that transparency, light and shadow. Again, just the intention of what the piece is trying to represent. So I'm now, while the other piece is starting to dry, I'm going to start working on this tree canopy. And then when I start assembling this, we can try to put them together and see how we can make them work. I'll be back.